repeating. We're aware that people are joining throughout the morning, so they may not have caught you a little bit earlier. Give us an update on Andrew, if you would.
Well, Bryant, the center of that storm is very close to the Lafayette area, New Iberia area. You can see it on the radar right here. A couple of things. One is it's starting to fill a little bit. That means it's starting to weaken. The core region of that hurricane is starting to weaken. The winds are starting to come down. The other thing that may be encouraging is that it may be starting to take that slow northward drift. And if that is the case, then it will start to weaken more rapidly than as we discussed a little bit earlier.
I'm not trying to second guess you, and the person in New Iberia certainly wasn't in a position to in terms of expertise, but was suggesting that the eye had not reached New Iberia yet. Is that possible?
Well, it's right over, according to our radar, they're right over the New Iberia area.
As I look at this map, Bob, we're talking about Andrew heading in a west and northerly direction. How far west might it get? Will it stretch as far, perhaps, as Lake Charles?
We thought that it was going to go a little bit farther west across the Lafayette area and then turn, not getting as far as Lake Charles, and it still may wobble back here, but not getting near as far as Lake Charles. They may get some of the outer bands from this, but that looks like about all they're going to get from it.
Of course, it loses some steam as it goes across land. Will it get as far north as Alexandria?
Yes, we think it will do that, but it probably will be down to the tropical storm force or less by the time it gets there.
But bringing rain throughout?
Rain and tornadoes. That's what they're going to face across Louisiana for the next 24 hours or so.
And Texas in the clear?
Texas is basically in the clear. Some of those outer bands, they propagate outward, and you might have something kicked off over there in Texas.
Okay. Bob Sheets, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Katie?
Bryant, Laplace, Louisiana suffered the wrath of Andrew early this morning. On the phone with us from there is Lucille Perilou. Good morning, Lucille. I understand that tornadoes hit your city. Can you tell us what you experienced this morning?
Good morning, Katie.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Good morning, Katie. Yes.
What I was saying is I understand that tornadoes hit your city. Can you describe what happened to you and your family in the early hours of the morning?
Oh, it's not much that I can explain, but as much as I can, I will. I was going to my house from across the track for my mother to let my husband know that to bring the bus on the other side of the track, because when it rained, with all the water makes it slop and he won't be able to get out with the bus. And my son had just gone across before me. And I said, he kind of slow, let me go and help him. Pack the children's stuff, my grandchildren and children's stuff on the bus to bring it across the track. And by the time I got in my yard, something picked me. I could hear it sound like a train, a loud roaring noise. But I still didn't think about no tornado. Because the weather only had little rain. And it picked me up and threw me on the porch. And then from there, it had me rolling. And my son told me, said, he was in the house, him and my husband. Said it made them feel the pressure. And they grabbed hold to one another. And they told one another, don't turn loose, we'll hold on to one another. Said, whatever it is coming in here. And just as I looked, all I could see was the house going up into air like splendors.
Your house was completely destroyed, Lucille?
To splendors.
Tell me what happened to your husband. I understand that he was hit by a refrigerator?
Yes, he just came out of major surgery. The refrigerator, I don't know if it was my refrigerator or someone else, because Orange Loop, where all the damage happened, is all destroyed, so I don't know who refrigerator hit him. But he had a hole in the back of his head. He had his chest, the doctor said his chest was crushed as if a truck had hit him in the chest. And you have glass, and you just shatter the glass. He said that's the way it was. His pressure had gone up. His face was kind of swollen. He had cuts all in his face, all on his arm. And my son was with him. He had only his side was hurting him some, but he said he's feeling much better.
Tell me about the rest of the houses in your area or in your neighborhood, Lucille. Were they destroyed by the tornado as well?
Yes, they were. They have trailers that's down in ditches. They have a fellow that lives to the front of our street. His truck is way in the back of the land in someone else's house. Some of the houses are just torn off the platform. Some of the trailers are thrown aside the railroad track. It's just a disaster.
You were thrown, Lucille. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling much better. I was thrown, but I was not hurt. I thank God I was not hurt.
Well, it certainly sounds like an incredibly frightening and harrowing...
Something I had never experienced before.
I can only imagine. Lucille Perry-Lou, thank you so much for talking with us. We wish you and your family well and wish your husband a speedy recovery.
We have a lot to thank God for.
I'm sure you do. Thank you. Bryant?
All right, Katie, we're going to go to Houma, Louisiana, which is 50 miles southwest of the city of New Orleans. Patricia Kramer is the director of the Red Cross there. Ms. Kramer, good morning. Ms. Kramer, can you hear me?
I just lost mine, so we just lost IFC.
Okay, it seems we've lost audio to Houma, Louisiana. We'll try to go back to there in just a moment. Let's instead go up the road a piece to Lafayette, Louisiana, where Bob Hager is standing by. We found Bob a half hour ago trying to stay rooted there. Bob, what's the situation?
Well, it was interesting what Bob Sheets was saying at the Hurricane Center about the wind showing some kind of weakening. You can't really tell that from here. One moment it's blowing very strong, one moment it lets up. I guess that's the effect of the outer bands. In any event, I will say that this, at its strongest, even in the periods of gusts, is nothing like it was in Miami. So you can tell it's not the storm it was there. Hopefully for people in this area, it won't do that kind of damage either.
Nothing like it was in Miami, Bob?
No, Miami is a whole category, couple of categories stronger. I mean, never mind the official categories, just stand in it, and you knew it was a much stronger storm there than it is right now here.
How eerie is it there right now?
I'm sorry, Brian?
How eerie is it there right now?
Well, you know, it depends on what comes. You know, in the early stages of these things, and now we're a little beyond the early stage, but it can really be strange. In Miami, I remember this. It was so quiet before. And, you know, I thought, gee, on the radar it shows this big, colorful storm, and it looks like it's going to come and wipe you out. And you walk outside, and it's just fine. And it was only an hour or so between that just fine and when the big blow hit in Miami.
Yeah.
So, again, you're seeing a microcosm. You can't really tell.
Okay, Bob Hager, thank you. Bob's in Lafayette, just about 20 miles south of him on the line in New Iberia is Roger O'Neill. Roger, what's the latest on your end?
Well, what they're saying here, Brian, some of the emergency officials saying we have sustained winds of 120 miles an hour with gusts up to 160 miles an hour. I've got no way to verify that, except I certainly wouldn't argue with it where we're sitting. I listened to Governor Edwards talking about the evacuation center. We are at that center. It is at the New Iberia High School, senior high school, and indeed a large portion of the roof has blown off, but they're not evacuating the high school because there's nowhere to evacuate to. They are moving people around inside, away from the area of the roof that has been blown off and continues to blow off. I also listened to Mr. Sheets talking about the eye of the hurricane. If there is an eye, we are not in it, or it is so small that it has missed New Iberia, because it's still blowing as it always has been blowing for the last 4 or 5 hours, as hard as it has been here.
Okay, Roger, just to clarify something, the roof was blown off. It did not collapse.
That is correct. The roof of the high school did not collapse. It is just blowing off in these winds and gusts that are going up to 160 miles an hour.
And no people injured as a direct result of that roof?
That is correct. They're moving them around into more secure hallways.
Okay, Roger O'Neill on the line with us from New Iberia, Louisiana. My goodness.
Well, that's better news, because what Governor Edwards said, there were 1,800 people in that shelter.
He
that
said he had
been
just gotten that
disaster.
report, so yeah, we're glad to be able to clarify that one. 7:41. We're going to come on back in just a moment. Continue to chart Andrew and do some other matters. We come back right after commercial break.
Good morning.
Can you give us an update on the situation? Jim Cummins said the worst was over. What did Andrew leave for the people of Houma?
Well, he came in with quite a stir. We're still experiencing gusts of wind of about 115 miles an hour right now. I think the worst was from between midnight to about 3 or 4 o'clock this morning. We're experiencing the end of it after the eye has passed over. We should be in another hour or so maybe getting some calmer weather.
Ms. Kramer, have you been able to survey any of the damage so far?
I'm sorry?
Have you been able to check out or walk around and look at any of the damage so far?
No, I haven't. We were waiting for daylight, and the EOC is going to do some damage assessment over the whole parish, and we have a damage assessment crew that we're getting together to go out and do windshield surveys.
Any reports so far on deaths or injuries?
I haven't heard of any report of any in Terrebonne Parish. I've heard of some in other places, but not here.
Tell us the situation, if you could, in the shelters in Houma. How many people are there? How long are they likely to have to stay?
We have some 3,000 people in about 10 shelters right now in Houma that we're setting up mass feeding right now. With our teams are getting together, and then we're having some shortages of water right now, and that's what we're doing.
What are you going to do to fight that shortage of water that you're experiencing? What kind of arrangements are being made?
We have several resources that we're contacting now, and that we're trying to get water brought in. And we've also got contact with the National Guard, so I'm pretty sure that'll be cleared up.
All right, Patricia Kramer, thank you so much for braving the elements and talking with us. I know you have a very busy day ahead. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment. This is Today on NBC.
But how are these massive storms generated? How do they work? Well, joining us from Baton Rouge this morning with some answers is Jay Grimes. He is the state climatologist for Louisiana, and a busy man. Nice to join us this morning, Jay. I appreciate it.
Good morning, sir.
This one has slowed down some. It moved so fast through Florida, but it's moving slowly through Louisiana. What does that do to you?
Well, what that means for us is that particularly along the coastal margins of the state, the potential for additional flooding increases.